I gave every Disventure Camp character a Pokémon type based on their design, personality, occupation, and gameplay. This includes every season they appeared in, plus the Tom Jake series and staff stories. Everyone gets a dual type to keep them unique and make it more challenging. I'll be going through seasons 1 through 4 in elimination order, and I'll cover the fans and staff members at the end. Let's get started. I gave Will the fighting type because after he was eliminated, he was able to fight off his fears due to Ashley. I considered psychic type because in season 1, he was shown to be scared of the dark and is probably scared of ghosts and bugs as well, which all are super effective against psychic types. But I went for fairy type because he is soft-hearted and emotionally sensitive. Since Drew is mute and mimes out everything using sign language after his notebook was stolen, and also can react quickly when Tom is sneaking off, I gave him a dual typing of psychic and electric. Normal type instead of electric was considered based off his design, but his personality is more upbeat and energetic and has expressive body language like an electric type. In the Pokémon anime, he reminds me of Pikachu because they share the same kind of spunk and a loyal ally. I gave Nick the ice type because he was invited into the Majority Alliance, and his involvement caused it to crumble like an avalanche. He was the weakest member of his team, similar to how ice is the weakest defensive typing in Pokémon. Nick was also cold toward his teammates, dismissing Will during the log challenge and refusing to listen to Lil and Ashley during the Fiore situation. Because of his rigid way of thinking and inability to adapt like Ashley and Lil, I also gave him the rock type. I gave Lil the grass type because she is a Girl Scout leader who spends much of her time outdoors in the wilderness. While she initiated the alliance with Will, Ashley, and Nick, her motivation was rooted in friendship rather than strategy. Because of her kindness and emotional support toward others, I also gave her the fairy type. I gave Ashley the grass type because she lives on a farm and takes care of plants and livestock. She isn't afraid of confrontation, calling out Jake's behavior and Raya's sabotage during the Season 3 comeback challenge. Ashley also overcame her fear of fire during the Fear Challenge, and she grew up in Texas, a hot environment that reinforces her fire typing. Because of this, I gave her the grass and fire types. Dan is one of the most low-impact characters in the series, with no standout strengths beyond his minor strategic ability, which is shown when he initiates the guys' alliance in the second episode. In the Tom Jake series, he works as an informant, demonstrating that he is observant and analytical rather than confrontational. Because of his ordinary presence paired with limited strategic thinking, I gave him the normal and psychic dual typing. Gabby has a fiery, unpredictable personality and a strong love for nature. In the Season 1 finale, she instantly takes down Derek, and in the Tom Jake series, she works as a self-defense instructor, which immediately earns her the fighting type. For her second type, I chose grass. While Gabby has an expressive temper, she is ultimately a kind character who is passionate about protecting animals and wildlife. Her aggressive side, evil Gabby, that emerges under pressure, can be seen as a fire-fighting form, but her core typing is fighting and grass. Gret was the mean, controlling type in Season 1, but became a victim of Yule in Season 3, making her hard to rank. Across both seasons, her strategic mind remained consistent, which is why I gave her Psychic. I also gave her Ghost, reflecting how being overshadowed by her brother from her parents left lingering emotional scars that influenced her behavior. Tom in Season 1 was a mysterious challenge beast, and his design alone initially suggests a dark typing. However, in Season 3, he becomes more expressive and loses much of that mystery. According to Tom himself, after Season 1, he built emotional defensive walls to avoid Jake, though those walls were eventually broken down. Because this internal resilience became a core part of his character, I gave him the Steel type, reflecting his strength and ability to cope with insecurities like his scars. Both Miriam and his mother refer to Tom as a fighter, which is why I also gave him the fighting type. This pairing fits well, as I see Tom as the Lucario of Disventure Camp, a central character defined by strength and aura. I gave Joke the fairy type because he is highly emotional, expressive, and relationship-driven. His decisions are often fueled by feelings rather than logic, and he is deeply affected by conflict and rejection, which aligns well with fairy-type traits. In Season 3, however, Jake frequently lashes out at friendly contestants like Ashley, Aiden, and Allie. This pattern of jealousy, impulsiveness, and emotional toxicity is why I also gave him the poison type. While his actions aren't malicious, they often spread conflict and negativity, making fairy and poison a fitting combination for his character. Alex stays low, relies heavily on strategy, and can think several steps ahead. In Season 1, he often leaned on Fiore for planning, but by Season 3, he influenced Jake against Aiden, saving Fiore during the early eliminations and uniting villains into a pre-merge alliance. This long-term, calculated thinking is why I gave him the psychic type. I also gave him the dark type, as it reflects how personal struggles such as his divorce and alcoholism led him to difficult emotional places, shaping the more shadowed side of his personality. Ellie is a low-key and calm character in Season 1, but by Season 3 she begins to show more villainous tendencies under the pressure of the game. As the stress builds, she becomes emotionally fragile and more distant towards Gabby, which is why I gave her the ice type. I also gave her the fairy type, reflecting her creativity, emotional sensitivity, and appreciation for beauty. By the end of Season 3, Ellie graduates college with an art degree, reinforcing her artistic mindset and softer, idealistic traits that align well with fairy-type Pokémon. Fiore, the runner-up of Season 1, is one of the smallest and physically weakest contestants in the series. While she struggles in challenges, she makes up for it through manipulation and psychological tactics, which earns her the psychic type. Her small and fragile stature inspired the bug type, reflecting both her vulnerability and her persistence throughout the game. Miriam, the winner of Season 1, is the oldest contestant in the series, yet she possesses many unexpected skills gained through life experience. Throughout the game, she was rarely viewed as a threat and often operated quietly in the background, which is why I gave her the ghost type. I also see strong similarities between Miriam and the Elite Four member Agatha, both relying on wisdom and subtle influence rather than brute force. I gave Miriam the grass type to reflect her emotional growth over the season. With Jake's help during the baking challenge, she began to open up about the tragedy of losing her husband and son, allowing her to heal and grow. By the end of Season 1, Miriam shows the most personal growth of any contestant. I gave Oliver the ground type because he is emotionally grounded and acts as a stabilizing presence, helping keep Crystal level-headed throughout her hosting career. I also gave him the steel type, as he is consistent, dependable, and keeps everything running smoothly in his role as a production member. Kai is a very spiritual character who is calm, laid back, and goes with the flow. He is emotionally fluid rather than rigid, which is why I gave him the water type. After his elimination in Season 2, he goes on a personal journey with Maggie into the forest and even performs a rain dance, reinforcing his spiritual connection to nature. Because of this harmony with the natural world, I also gave him the grass type. Connor is a wealthy and composed perfume company owner who joined the show not for the prize money, but to feel young again. He respects authority and structure, and in Season 3, he became a driving force behind the Heroes Alliance. In Pokémon, heroism and discipline are often represented by the fighting type, reflecting Connor's sense of responsibility, leadership, and willingness to step up when needed. I also gave Connor the steel type, as he operates through order and control rather than emotion or manipulation. His reliability and composure make him a stabilizing presence rather than a chaotic one. Maggie joined the show as a soft-spoken, shy character who didn't have very many friends. I gave Maggie the fairy type because she is kind and empathetic toward others, and her strength comes from her relationships with Rosa and Lake rather than strategy. Over the season, she truly blossoms into a more confident character, even standing up to Crystal when it mattered. I also gave her the grass type, as she represents personal growth and renewal, especially after joining Kai following her elimination and adapting to a new way of life in the forest. Yule is one of the most mean-spirited and confrontational characters in the series, constantly clashing with nearly everyone around him. Because of his overwhelming presence and tendency to dominate social dynamics, most notably overpowering Gret in their relationship, I gave him the dragon type, which often represents power, intimidation, and larger-than-life personalities in Pokémon. Interestingly, Yule ultimately causes his own elimination in both seasons, which mirrors how dragon types are only super effective against themselves. I also gave Yule the poison type, as his strategy literally involved attempting to poison Aiden, a plan that ultimately backfired. His background knowledge from taking a toxicology course further supports this typing, reflecting both his methods and his socially toxic behavior. Tess is a calm and introspective character whose strength comes from emotional intelligence rather than competition. Because of her deep intuition and ability to understand others on a psychological level, I gave her the psychic type. She even foresaw that the game wasn't healthy for Ellie and helped prevent her from being emotionally harmed. I also gave her the fairy type, as she consistently acts as a source of emotional support and quiet healing for those around her, especially Allie and Tom during his panic attack. Tess is often seen as the therapist of Season 3 and is also an artist, creating illustrations for Lake's novels. She represents inner strength, empathy, and balance rather than aggression. Lake is a calm and thoughtful character, and I immediately gave her the water type because of her name alone. Her arc represents a narrow river flowing into a lake, gradually broadening with new possibilities. On the show, she is initially described as the obedient daughter of the Mueller family, known for their brilliance. In episode 7, she breaks out of this archetype, symbolized by changing her wig under Rosa's influence. Lake's childhood wasn't easy. She faced stress from school and pressure from her parents, which even affected her health, causing her to lose her hair. By standing up to both her parents and Crystal, she demonstrates resilience, independence, and a willingness to challenge authority. This assertiveness and shadowed experience is why I gave her the dark type. I gave Carol the flying and fire types. Carol is a bold and often confrontational character who tends to stand out due to her strong personality. She has a natural connection to animals and is frequently seen with alligators, wolves, and hawks. Her bond with birds and her role in taking Raya under her wing, guiding her to act more like herself, supports the flying type. I gave her the fire type because she isn't afraid to challenge characters like James and Aiden, and she often reacts passionately when frustrated. Allie is a popular streamer and gamer, which inspired her electric type, reflecting her connection to technology and electronics. She also felt an immediate spark toward Hunter in the second episode of Season 2. I gave her the fairy type because she is compassionate and caring, supporting both Hunter and Tess throughout the game. She even forgave Jake for his toxic behavior in Season 3. Allie balances energy and empathy, making her both lively and thoughtful. Rosa is a deeply nurturing character, shaped by her experience as a teenage mother. Having endured hardship early in life, she hates seeing others suffer because she understands that pain firsthand, which is why I gave her the grass type. Grass represents her patience, empathy, and ability to help others heal and grow, rather than forcing change upon them. She serves as the main helping hand that allows Lake to escape her abusive parents, demonstrating how Rosa supports people when they feel trapped and unable to grow on their own. I also gave Rosa the steel type to reflect her reliability and emotional strength. She is someone others can always count on, no matter the circumstances. Rosa consistently bases her decisions on helping others, even choosing to aid Rhea in the Season 2 finale, despite the fact that Rhea did not deserve it. This moment highlights Rosa's unshakable values and reinforces her role as both compassionate and steadfast. Hunter is cool, popular, and good at challenges, but the Season 2 remake reveals a very different side of him, someone who struggled deeply with socialization and was bullied so severely growing up that he was homeschooled. Because of this difficult childhood and the way his character is framed, I gave Hunter the dark type, representing the isolation and inner struggles he carries rather than outright villainy. His unreasonably harsh treatment of Fior mirrors the way others once treated him, and his impatience with Allie's insecurities in Season 3 reflects his discomfort with vulnerability that reminds him of his own past. I also gave Hunter the flying type to reflect how in Season 2 he is the biggest social butterfly. He effortlessly bounces between different friend groups, such as his own group of him, Allie, and Tess, but also Lake, Aiden, and James, as well as Maggie and Kai, even when they're on opposing teams. Flying represents his adaptability, freedom, and ability to navigate social spaces with ease. Aiden is a fan of the show who finally earns a spot in Season 2 after being cut in Season 1. He lacks any extreme strengths or standout traits, which is why he fits the normal type. He is relatable and fundamentally average among a cast of louder personalities. I also gave Aiden the ice type to reflect how he emotionally shuts down during conflict. His cold behavior toward James during their misunderstanding shows how he distances himself when hurt, and his consistently strained relationship with Jake in Season 3 leaves him metaphorically on thin ice. Rather than being cruel, Aiden's ice typing represents emotional restraint, fragility, and unresolved tension. Raya is the runner-up of Season 2. Joining the show as a lonely Bollywood actress who recently moved from India to America in hopes of finding success. After the Season 2 finale, she fully embraces the opportunities that come with being a villain, leaning into her darker side in Season 3 and causing harm to the majority of contestants, both physically and emotionally. Some of her most extreme moments include intentionally knocking Connor off a moving horse, striking Jake in the throat with a metal sword, and pushing Aiden off a cliff and didn't feel remorse. Because of her aggressive personality, moral disregard, and willingness to hurt others to advance herself, I gave Raya the dark type. While Raya is one of the strongest competitors in the series, placing second in Season 2 and winning Season 3, her success relies more on brute force than psychological manipulation. I also gave her the fire type to represent her volatile personality, explosive gameplay, and dominance through aggression, reinforced by her use of the flame superpower during the Dragon Challenge. James is the winner of Season 2, joining the show as a fame-hungry TikTok influencer looking to boost his follower count. At the start of the season, he is self-absorbed and willing to do anything to be noticed. Over time, however, he learns to value genuine relationships and begins appreciating the people who truly care about him, such as Aiden, Lake, and Rosa. I gave James the rock type to represent his brittle sense of confidence during Season 2. While he presents himself as confident and unshakable, his personality frequently cracks under pressure, particularly through his strained and emotionally complex relationship with Aiden. Rock reflects how his facade erodes as his insecurities are exposed, such as when his secret was revealed of not having any friends other than his sister. I also gave him the electric type because in Season 3, James brings constant energy to the Magenta team, hyping everyone up and injecting momentum during his short stay. Electric represents his charisma and how, after his growth, his attention-seeking evolves into a positive, energizing force. Alessio joined the show to find inspiration for his next painting, feeling as though his creative spark had faded. He shows little interest in forming friendships and does not care how others perceive him. At the start of Season 4, he comes across as distant and mysterious, skipping icebreakers and refusing to help the other contestants on Rescue Island, which is why I gave him the dark type. Dark represents his isolation, emotional detachment, and creative burnout, rather than villainy. Alessio also swings between extremes, initially showing no desire to help his team before suddenly becoming competitive after receiving guidance from Logan. I gave him the electric type to represent this renewed spark, capturing the sudden bursts of energy, motivation, and drive that return once his inspiration is reignited. Ted is a professional poker player and a father with a highly strategic mindset. Given his career, it's implied that he has faced serious financial instability, even coming close to divorce, revealed in Rescue Island, which suggests a life shaped by risk, pressure, and moral gray areas. Because of this, I gave Ted the dark type, representing his hardened pragmatism and the weight of lived consequences rather than outright villainy. I also gave Ted the poison type, due to how consistently uncomfortable and off-putting he is. He poisons the social atmosphere through his behavior, from wiping with poison oak and exposing his naked butt to the team, to flexing shirtless during the comeback challenge and yelling "vomit on her" during Diego and Mauricia's fight. Poison reflects how Ted contaminates group dynamics and crosses social boundaries, making interactions around him feel unpleasant and awkward. Diego is a Colombian tour guide with a deep connection to nature and wildlife. He spends most of his life outdoors and has an almost uncanny ability to tame animals, not through force, but through patience and trust. Because of his close relationship with nature and his gentle, respectful approach to wildlife, I gave Diego the grass type. Grass represents his harmony with the natural world, his calm presence, and the way he nurtures connections rather than overpowering them. I also gave Diego the fairy type to reflect his romantic and idealistic nature. He is a hopeless romantic who falls in love with Spencer almost in a heartbeat, showing how openly and earnestly he embraces love. Fairy represents emotional sincerity, charm, and a slightly whimsical worldview. Diego believes in love deeply and without cynicism. His warmth, optimism, and gentle kindness make him feel almost magical in contrast to the harsher personalities around him. Disregarding Tristan's design, they are a genuinely positive person who believes in smiling even when times are rough. Despite being rejected by their parents because of their identity and being kicked out of their home, Tristan maintains a hopeful and kind outlook. Because of this backstory, I gave them the ghost type, representing how they were made invisible by the people who should have supported them, despite still existing and deserving love. Ghost reflects emotional isolation and abandonment rather than fear or malice. A character they remind me of is Alistair from Pokémon Sword and Shield. I also gave Tristan the ground type because of their calming and stabilizing presence. They help Benji feel included and emotionally steady during the motel episode, and later support Zaid after his elimination, helping him work through a dark place and return to his normal self. Ground represents Tristan's ability to anchor others emotionally, offering stability, comfort, and reassurance when people feel lost. Linda is an American housewife and reality show fanatic who joins the show to finally win something for herself. I gave her the fire type because she is emotionally passionate and quick to express frustration, becoming the first person on her team to push back against Marissa's leadership after the first loss. Fire represents her impatience with failure and her desire to be seen as more than just a supporting role. I also gave Linda the ground type because of her emotional stability and maturity. After her elimination, she is able to calm herself down and respect Anastasia's gameplay without lingering bitterness. In her home life, Linda holds down the fort by caring for her children, making meals, and cleaning while her husband works, reinforcing her role as a stabilizing presence. Ground represents her practicality, resilience, and ability to stay grounded even after emotional flare-ups. Ivy joined the show to prove that actresses can be genuinely kind, unlike Raya, and to show that she built her career without relying on her actor parents. While she is generally nice, Ivy is highly emotionally sensitive and struggles when her expectations aren't met. Her frustration during the music challenge, especially receiving only 8s, and her reaction to losing highlight how deeply she ties her self-worth to validation. I gave Ivy the fairy type to represent her ideals, emotional vulnerability, and desire to be seen as kind and authentic. I also gave her the fire type due to her emotional volatility and tendency to act on strong feelings, such as throwing the challenge to eliminate Spencer after he idol eliminated Tristan. Fire represents Ivy's impulsive reactions and vengeful streak when she feels hurt. Benji is portrayed as a clumsy and unintentionally funny character, often treated as a joke by his teammates. Despite this, he is a law student, showing that he is far more intelligent and observant than he appears. He demonstrates strategic awareness by identifying Jade and Isabel as major threats, even when others overlook him. I gave Benji the bug type because he is consistently perceived as weak and insignificant, much like bug types are often viewed as the weakest overall. He's disrespected by his team, makes immature comments, and struggles in challenges, reinforcing how others underestimate him. However, this perception hides his underlying intelligence. I also gave him the water type because Benji wasn't included in the majority in Season 4, and instead adapts by going with the flow. He follows Hannah's plan to eliminate Ivy and is willing to support Allie's elimination choice in Season 5. Water represents his passivity, adaptability, and tendency to survive by adjusting to the current rather than fighting it. Richard is a basketball coach and serves as a strong, supporting presence for Logan and Natalia. Despite not being a major physical threat on paper, he is surprisingly competent in challenges during the pre-merge of Season 4, showing determination and grit. He is a loyal ally who consistently gives everyone on his team a fair chance to prove themselves, which earns him the fighting type. Fighting represents his sense of honor, perseverance, and willingness to stand up for others rather than fight for personal gain. I also gave Richard the ground type because of how reliable, fair, and emotionally steady he is. He keeps Logan grounded when Logan is questioning his sexuality, offering support without pressure or judgment. Richard is a down-to-earth character who values balance and stability, and he naturally lifts others up by being someone they can depend on. Natalia is a publicist who uses her PR skills to navigate the game, carefully controlling how others perceive her. This almost supernatural ability to shape narratives and remain unnoticed earns her the psychic type, as she understands how people think and how to influence their opinions. If Anastasia hadn't exposed her, it's likely she would have continued manipulating the game from the shadows. I also gave Natalia the water type because of her adaptability and how she is calm. She remains relaxed under pressure and flips between alliances when needed, like a fish out of water. Water represents her flexibility, survival instincts, and ability to blend into whatever situation benefits her most. Spencer is an emotional wreck who does his best to survive the game after sabotaging himself early by voting off the one person he truly trusted, Diego. Unable to communicate his feelings toward him, Spencer emotionally freezes up, which earns him the ice type. Ice represents his emotional paralysis, isolation, and that he is on thin ice with most of the contestants for the remainder of the game. I gave Spencer the psychic type because his survival depends on manipulation and mental strategy rather than heroism or fairness. He uses a persuasive tone to get inside people's heads, particularly Anastasia, Logan, and convinces Jade to use the idol on him during Tristan's elimination, consistently making strong strategic moves despite his unstable emotional state. Psychic represents his ability to influence others and weaponize his intelligence when his emotions fail him. Marissa is a friendly and supportive character, especially toward Anastasia. During the show, she realizes she isn't suited for the military and begins exploring a new path. Her soft, almost Disney-like singing voice and trusting nature demonstrate her gentleness and optimism, always seeing the best in others, like how she supported Linda during her breakdown on Rescue Island. This earns her the fairy type, representing her kindness, innocence, and nurturing personality. I also gave her the ground type because of her steady and calming presence. She works to include Linda in her alliance despite Anastasia's resistance and helps de-escalate tensions whenever her allies are upset. Ground represents her reliability, emotional stability, and ability to anchor others in moments of stress. Zaid is Ivy's boyfriend and a professional chef who joined the game to win for his mother, hoping to give back for her support during culinary school. While he is generally calm and focused, we see a fiery side of Zaid when he's unexpectedly voted out due to Logan's lie. He also becomes hostile when Spencer brings up his mother, even saying in his post-game interview that he was ready to beat up Spencer and go to jail that night. These emotional outbursts earned him the fire type, representing his intense anger and protective instincts. I also gave Zaid the normal type, because outside of these occasional flares, he is a relatively consistent and straightforward character. His personality doesn't change much throughout the season, and he doesn't have standout quirks or gameplay extremes. Normal reflects his baseline stability and average presence in both challenges and social dynamics. Emily is a businesswoman and has learned to keep her emotions from dictating her actions, earning her the Steel type. Steel represents her emotional strength, resilience, and ability to stay composed under pressure. When she rejoined the game, she attempted to blackmail Logan regarding Maricia's elimination. However, this plan backfired, and she was blindsided that same night. I gave her the Dark type because it reflects her willingness to use underhanded or morally gray tactics to advance in the game. She revealed that balancing university and starting a business had left her overworked and emotionally exhausted. Dark here represents both her strategic cunningness and the shadow side of her ambition, calculated, willing to bend rules, but not inherently villainous. Isabel is a gentle, soft-spoken nun influencer who is quietly perceptive of others. She cares deeply about how people view her and does not want to be seen as wicked. Because she is generally kind, empathetic, and at times gullible, I gave her the Fairy type. Fairy represents her innocence and concern for others. Despite her gentleness, Isabel can act on strong emotions rather than cold strategy. She deliberately set up a tiebreaker between Anastasia and Marissa, causing Anastasia significant emotional distress, while not improving her own position in the game. She also shows visible frustration toward Linda after the unwanted washing of her clothes. This impulsive, emotionally charged behavior earned her the Fire type, representing her fiery and reactive side. Hannah is a bartender who lost both of her parents at a young age. She joined the show carefree and upbeat, but the experience shaped her into someone highly emotional and occasionally impulsive. She becomes confrontational when her friends are being eliminated, especially towards Spencer, often acting on strong feelings in the heat of the moment. This earns her the Fire type, representing her passionate, reactive nature and how she channels her emotions into action. I also gave her the Ghost type because she is cursed throughout the season. Almost everyone she speaks to, like Amelie, Diego, and Tristan, is eliminated within an episode or two. Ghost reflects this spectral, unlucky presence and the sense that she is haunted by circumstances beyond her control, adding a supernatural edge to her emotional intensity. Anastasia is a Russian model who was previously oppressed for loving another woman. After being kicked out of her home, she moved to Australia to live as her true self. Her tragic past left her guarded and emotionally fragile. When Marissa was voted off, she was deeply hurt and could no longer fully trust her best friend, Zaid. This emotional vulnerability earns her the Ice type, representing her fragility, caution, and tendency to freeze under emotional stress. I also gave Anastasia the Dark type because she is willing to use underhanded tactics to advance in the game. Notable examples include dislocating Ivy's shoulder during the dodgeball challenge without remorse, manipulating Logan during the pre-merge, and strategically revealing that Jade didn't help Logan when he almost drowned during the final 3 advantage vote. Dark reflects her moral flexibility and willingness to exploit opportunities when necessary. Jade is a marine biologist who is fond of turtles and the runner-up of Season 4. She possesses the best strategic mind in the series, but her gameplay doesn't rely on lying or manipulating others. She operates in a methodical, precise way, earning her the Steel type. Steel represents her disciplined, analytical approach and reliability in the game. She functions like a strategic robot. She is also deeply connected to the ocean through her occupation and daily life. On the show, she performs a pre-elimination ritual matching her breath to the waves, helping maintain her relaxed and composed attitude. This earns her the Water type, representing her adaptability, calmness, and harmony with her environment while navigating a chaotic game. Logan is a third-place Olympic swimmer and the winner of Season 4. He earns the Water type by default. He spends much of his life practicing swimming and is naturally at ease in the water. Like his best friend, Natalia, he frequently flips alliances at elimination ceremonies. While he isn't strategically savvy, he often makes strong moves unintentionally. After nearly drowning, he became traumatized and fearful of water, which earned him the Rock type. Rock represents both his unpredictability, like his recently discovered sexuality, and the emotional hardness he developed in response to his fear. Throughout the game, he carried sharp edges around him no matter what he said or what he did. He often inadvertently hurt others. His rock typing reflects this tension, showing how his once fluid nature became rigid as the game progressed. Aura is a business student who approaches the game with a calculated, results-driven mindset. She's willing to do whatever it takes to succeed, prioritizing effectiveness over morality. Her decisions are not based on whether something is right or wrong, but on whether it advances her position. Because she openly embraces this villainous philosophy and shows clear moral flexibility, Aura earns the Dark type. However, Aura is not purely cold and reserved. She has a chaotic, high-impact presence on her team. She openly yelled at Bruno during the second challenge and frequently amplifies Finn's disruptive energy in the early episodes. Her social volatility and ability to immediately shift the atmosphere around her reflect the Electric type. Electric represents her explosive reactions, sharp intensity, and the way she sparks conflict when it benefits her. Aubrey is a psychology student, which naturally aligns her with the Psychic type. She has a strong ability to read people and analyze motivations, something she demonstrates in the very first episode when she correctly identifies Sam as a potential threat. Her instincts are sharp, and her understanding of social dynamics gives her clear strategic potential. However, while her read on Sam was accurate, her execution lacked restraint. Instead of carefully rallying numbers behind the scenes, Aubrey impulsively called him out in front of the entire team. This emotionally charged and direct approach ultimately backfired, putting a target on her instead. That moment earns her the Fire type. Fire represents her passion, intensity, and tendency to act on instinct rather than patiently maneuvering. Her ideas are often strategically sound, but her delivery can be too immediate and reactive, causing her plans to burn out before they fully take hold. As a super fan of the show, Bruno enters the game with built-in knowledge of past strategies, archetypes, and common manipulation tactics. He isn't naive, and he's much harder to control than he may initially appear. That awareness already makes him strategically grounded. When he stepped up to propose a plan that ultimately failed, the team quickly reduced him to being small and insignificant. That perception earns him the Bug type. Bug types are often underestimated early in the game and viewed as weak or expendable, but they're known for surprising evolution and long-term potential. Bruno fits that archetype perfectly, overlooked but not incapable. At the same time, Bruno plays a stabilizing role within his alliance. His quiet encouragement of Manu directly helped Manu refocus and secure the win in the second challenge. That supportive, steady presence gives him the Ground type. Ground represents stability, reliability, and foundation. Bruno may not dominate socially, but he creates solid footing for others. Dunya's energy is effortless. As a professional witch and tarot reader, she understands people on an intuitive level. She has a way of getting others to open up, sometimes without them even realizing they're doing it. That emotional pull earns her the fairy type. Fairy types aren't just sweet, they're disarming. They lower defenses. Dunya creates a space where people feel heard, understood, and emotionally safe, which is incredibly powerful in a social game. Her calm, easygoing presence gives her the water type. She doesn't force situations, she flows through them. Water adapts, shifts, and takes the shape of its environment. Dunya isn't chaotic or aggressive, she reads the room and moves accordingly. Ernesto comes into the game as a corporate trainer, someone used to leading rooms, setting structure, and being respected. That natural authority earns him the rock type. Rock types are solid, dependable, and built on structure. Ernesto believes leadership should be clear and organized. The moment the team stopped fully listening to him, he didn't adapt, he crumbled. He withdrew, questioned himself, and even began doubting his own moral compass. That rigidity is classic rock, strong when supported, fragile when destabilized. I also gave him the ground type. Ground represents practicality and learning through experience. Despite his frustration, Ernesto was able to take Ren's advice and adjust. He still contributed and helped the team, even if it wasn't in the clean, structured way he preferred. Evie enters the game as a wealthy heiress determined to prove she can succeed without privilege. On paper, that's a strong motivation, but in practice, she struggles when things don't go her way. That's why I gave her the poison type. Poison isn't just about being toxic. It represents resentment, negativity, and emotional reactions that linger. When challenges get difficult, Evie tends to complain rather than adapt. That lingering frustration spreads to the team and slowly affects morale. I also gave her the bug type. Bug types often start off underestimated and physically fragile compared to other types. Evie hasn't contributed significantly in challenges so far, and she's struggled to assert herself strategically. Like many bug types, though, this doesn't mean she's incapable, it just means she hasn't evolved yet.
Finn is a performing arts student who entered the game with one clear goal: to show the world how wicked actors can be. He isn't trying to be a hero. He's actively leaning into the villain role, embracing chaos and drama to make an impact. I gave Finn the dragon type because of his extreme, larger-than-life personality. Dragon types are proud, intense, and impossible to ignore, traits that perfectly match Finn's over-the-top flair, which often serves as a way to compensate for underlying insecurities. I didn't give him dark because he's performing a role. He isn't genuinely malicious. I also gave him the fairy type. Fairy types are charming, playful, and disarming, and Finn uses flirtation and charisma, particularly around Tom, as a social tool. Fairy energy isn't about innocence, it's about influence and enchantment. He knows how to grab attention and blur boundaries in a way that unsettles others, making him unpredictable and captivating. Manu is an appliance salesman who thrives on positivity and connection. He understands that in both business and the game, a smile can be an advantage. His upbeat personality and ability to energize others, especially Bruno, earns him the electric type. Electric types bring momentum and morale, and Manu's encouragement directly helped Bruno refocus and perform better in the second challenge. But Manu isn't just positivity. I also gave him the fighting type because he refuses to stay silent when something feels wrong. He openly challenged Finn and Ara's treatment of Bruno and didn't hesitate to stand up for him. Fighting types represent conviction, and Manu plays with his heart on his sleeve. Nora is a retail cashier who tends to be moody and has a generally negative outlook on life. Because of her cynicism and tendency to clash with Dunya over her brand identity, I gave her the dark type, representing her critical, skeptical, and sometimes confrontational nature. However, Nora also shows that she cares about others. After upsetting Dunya, she expressed genuine remorse and checked to see if she had hurt her feelings. This side of her earns her the grass type, symbolizing her potential for growth, empathy, and the ability to nurture relationships despite her rough exterior. Alwea is a taxidermist with a fascination for the macabre, which gives her a slightly creepy reputation. She struggles to make friends, as her interests and personality can unsettle others. For example, she weirded out Gabby and lost Aubrey early on. This combination of social misfortune and connection to death earns her the ghost type. Despite this, Alwea has an undeniably cute and innocent side, which is why she also earns the fairy type. She balances her eerie interests with charm and sweetness, creating a unique blend of spooky yet endearing energy. Ren is a fun-loving graphic designer who enjoys traveling, joking around, and bringing energy to the group. His connection to nature, climbing trees, and even eating leaves earns him the grass type, representing his grounded, adventurous, and outdoorsy side. I also gave him the electric type because he sparks action and influences others, like motivating Ernesto to listen and work with the team. Electric also reflects the chaotic energy he brings when he eventually uses his idol, showing that he can be unpredictable and impactful in critical moments. Sam is a risk analyst, which makes him naturally strategic and good at calculating payoffs in social and game situations. He knows how to make strong first impressions and survived the first elimination when Aubrey targeted him. Throughout the game, he supported Berno's idea in the first challenge, let Evie go on the adventure, and backed Era and Finn during shelter building. Because of his psychological insight, I gave Sam the psychic type. This reflects his ability to think ahead, anticipate others' moves, and maintain strong social standing without resorting to underhanded tactics. I also gave him the water type because he often goes with the flow and aligns with the team's plans, shifting subtly when it benefits his position. Water represents his adaptability, flexibility, and ability to maintain balance within the group. Trevor is the original host of Season 1 and balances Derek's bad cop energy with his own calm, approachable style. Throughout his hosting career, he's been charismatic and uplifting, which earns him the electric type, representing his energy, charm, and ability to energize those around him. Trevor is also innocent and wholesome, rarely swearing or acting harshly, and he shows a romantic side, particularly in his relationship with Derek during Season 3. This side of him earns the fairy type, reflecting his kindness, charm, and heartfelt personality. Derek is more unhinged and sadistic compared to Trevor, often leaning into dark humor and shocking behavior. Because of this, he earns the dark type, representing his twisted, unpredictable, and morally flexible personality. Notable examples include initiating plans to exterminate wildlife and openly acknowledging the danger some cameramen faced from bears. I also gave him the rock type due to the tough personal situations he navigates. His romantic entanglements and a fling with Crystal that hurt Trevor while also causing complications for Crystal show his resilience in navigating difficult emotional terrain, as well as the hardness he's developed from past experiences from getting the show started. Jensen is a criminal who served as the bus driver and production assistant, tasked with exterminating animals in the forest. When caught by the authorities, he attempts to steal the money and escape, but the bus crashes and he disappears without a trace. His mysterious and unpredictable nature earns him the dark type, representing his morally flexible and secretive personality. I also gave him the ghost type because of his tragic childhood. Orphaned, he lived with his sister in an animal shelter until she was brutally killed by wild dogs, forcing Jensen to act to save himself. This traumatic experience shaped him, leaving him isolated and desensitized to violence toward animals.
Ghost reflects his haunted past, emotional trauma, and lingering presence as a figure shrouded in mystery.
Crystal, the host of Season 2 and daughter of Christoph McLean, host of Race to the Place, grew up with most of her life managed by agents her father hired. Without her parents around, she naturally sought to impress him by following in his footsteps, auditioning for hosting roles, and developing her talents from a young age. This relentless drive and ambition earns her the Steel type, representing her discipline, determination, and resilience. I also gave her the Fire type because, as host of Season 2, she sometimes pushed contestants too far. She created intense challenges, such as revealing campers' private secrets and sending them into the forest with minimal supplies, until Marcus and Oliver stepped in to calm her down. Fire reflects her intense energy, passion, and occasionally volatile nature. Marcus is an Army veteran who served in the Vietnam War. His past is marked by deep tragedy. His wife burned down their house, taking her own life and that of their daughter, Nina. Seeking closure, Marcus joined a paranormal investigation crew to find a doll his daughter loved. When they discovered something haunted, he destroyed the evidence and took the doll, keeping a tangible connection to his lost child. This tragic and haunted backstory earns him the Ghost type, representing his experiences with loss, grief, and lingering emotional weight. At the same time, Marcus is a stabilizing force for those around him. He helps Crystal calm down when her energy goes too far and maintains composure despite his dramatic past. This grounded, reliable nature earns him the Ground type, representing his stability, resilience, and ability to support others in stressful situations. Nina is the sentient, ordinary girl doll that Marcus holds, symbolizing his deceased daughter. In the motel episode of Season 3, she demonstrates paranormal abilities, making her a Ghost type, representing her supernatural and mysterious presence. At the same time, Nina is a mystical, otherworldly being with a haunting, childlike voice. She also shows care and loyalty, saving Marcus from an evil doll during a dramatic confrontation. This earns her the Fairy type, representing her magical nature and capacity for kindness, even amidst chaos and darkness. Emily is a gossip-loving, fame-hungry staff member from Season 3. She was caught interfering with Yule and subsequently fired, and later struggled to find work. Seeking revenge, she targeted Crystal and teamed up with Trevor to attempt a fatal scheme during the finale of Season 3, a plan that ultimately failed. This fiery drive for revenge earns her the Fire type, representing her intense passion, impulsive energy, and willingness to act on strong emotions. At the same time, Emily's actions are rooted in malice and a desire to cause chaos. She even attempted to harm Trevor when he changed his mind, showing her willingness to use morally dark methods to achieve her goals. This earns her the Dark type, representing her scheming, vengeful, and morally flexible nature. If you made it to the end, I genuinely appreciate you. Let me know in the comments which characters I got right and which one you disagree with the most. And if you enjoy deep dives into Disventure Camp strategy and character breakdowns, subscribe. Thanks for watching.